And that really is what today is all about, opportunities. We have a great panel discussion that we're going to have, and then we'll talk as a group with some question and answers afterwards. But I wanted to just take a moment and recognize a couple special guests that we have here today. We have Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. Thank you so much for being here. We have a whole host of state reps and senators. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give you all around at the same time. We have Secretary of State Greg Moore. And to kick us off, we have our newest congressman from the state of Rhode Island, Seth Magaziner.
Justin in volume, but I can at least try to match in enthusiasm. To all of my colleagues in government who are here, thank you for your leadership. I see we have a number of leaders of organized labor across the board who are here. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you to all of the contractors and associations who are here. And most importantly, to the men and women who actually build up our state and who are out there doing the hard work. Thank you. Thank you for making Rhode Island a stronger and better place. So, look, I am honored to address you for the first time as Rhode Island's newest representative in Congress, and I can tell you that we are living in a historic time. Over the last 2 years, the Biden administration and the Democrat-controlled Congress have put out an historic amount of resources to rebuild infrastructure all across this country. We haven't seen anything like it since the New Deal. All right, I'm talking about the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which means hundreds of millions of dollars for Rhode Island. I'm talking about the ARPA bill, which again means hundreds of millions of dollars to the state of Rhode Island and cities and towns and school districts. This is going to be billions of dollars to do everything from replacing lead pipes, building out broadband, repairing roads and bridges, repairing schools, building up and improving water systems. And clean energy. The list goes on and on. Now comes the important part, which is that we have to take these resources and actually put them to good use. We've got to get that money out on the streets so that we're building up this infrastructure, we're improving our quality of life, and creating good jobs and putting people to work in the process. And we have to do this work quickly, in part because the people of Rhode Island deserve it. We've been waiting a long time for better roads and bridges and school buildings and water quality and lead remediation. We've been waiting a long time for these things. People deserve to have action quickly. But also because, and I can tell you this now with some firsthand experience, now that the Republicans control the House of Representatives in Washington, they're already trying to claw this money back. So I don't know if you saw, for the last month or so, the Republicans in Washington were saying, we're going to default on the country's debt. We're going to stop making payments unless you give us what we want. And the president and other people would say, okay, well, what is it that you want? And they said, well, we'll get back to you. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And then finally, just a few days ago, the top Republican in the Budget Committee said, okay, here's our list of demands. We are going to wreck the economy unless you do these things. And one of the top demands was taking back stimulus money from the states and the cities that hasn't been spent yet. Now, I don't think they're going to succeed. I don't think people are going to stand for it. I don't think the president will stand for it. Certainly, we're going to fight against that. But all the same, we got to hustle and get this money out, right? We got to hustle and get these shovels in the ground so that we can fix our infrastructure, fix our school buildings, move toward a clean energy economy, create jobs, and do all those things before they take the money back. So that's why this work is so important. That's why I want to recognize everyone from the painters and glazers for convening this conversation, and I want to thank all of you for being a part of it. We have a historic opportunity here. We need to take advantage of it. I'm going to keep fighting for you in Washington. I'm going to keep fighting to make sure that we have these resources in Rhode Island on the ground to do all this good work. I'm going to be supporting the PRO Act to make sure that it's easier for workers in Rhode Island and all across the country to join unions, because unions built the middle class. I've already joined the Apprenticeship Caucus, the Labor Caucus, and the CTE Caucus, because I want to make sure that I am on the front lines of advocating for pro-worker and pro-infrastructure agendas in Washington. But this is where the real work happens. This is where the rubber meets the road. So thank you all for coming together. The fact that you are here means that you get it, and I'm excited to see what comes out of this conversation. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Congressman Magaziner. We really appreciate you being here today and kicking us off with those remarks. I also want to recognize my friend, my brother, the president of the Rhode Island Building and Construction Trades Council, Michael Sabatoni. Michael, you appreciate it.
Justin, and I can be louder than Justin, so I do not need a mic. And Congressman, thank you for those words. You know, if you needed any evidence on why we work so damn hard to make sure we sent the right representative from District 2 to Congress to represent our interests, well, you just heard it. So thank you for all you've already done and all the things that we know you're going to do. You're not here to hear me. You're here to hear this fine panel that's been assembled. I will say that I am damn proud of the work that we've accomplished. Building these coalitions are not easy. I really appreciate all of the reps and senators that are here with us today, because we can't do anything without you. And, you know, I've been at this a long time, and I've always found that our success, whatever it is, has three ingredients. And those ingredients are labor. Always start with labor. Business, have some of our contractors here as well, and government. All pulling in the same direction to accomplish anything. And our effects on climate are going to be no different. And we wouldn't have made the strides we've made without those three key elements. And we're not going to reach our goals if we don't continue to meet in forums such as this and discuss these issues so that we can all get there together. So I'm just going to close. I want to hear what this fine panel has to say as well. 2 points of privilege. I'd like to congratulate Justin and his organization for this magnificent facility. We've got some state-of-the-art training facilities, and you get to see them when we travel around. And I know that the Painters and Allied Trades, the DC-11s, worked awfully hard on this facility, so make sure you take a tour. It's fantastic. I couldn't be prouder. And then I will close with just wishing my good friend, the Lieutenant Governor, a happy birthday. So happy birthday. For your commitments, and I look forward to hearing from the panel. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. So, folks, again, today is about opportunity. And the opportunity that's recognized when our federal government does the right thing and invests back in ourselves, invests in this country, in the working people, and in the communities that make up the fabric of not just the state of Rhode Island, but of the United States of America. That opportunity, recognized by what Congressman Magaziner and Michael touched on, the various funding streams and grant opportunities that exist, can do amazing things. And we can do amazing things when we invest in ourselves as a country, right? You think about any major pivotal moment in this country, and you look back and you see it's because we invested in ourselves. The New Deal, the Federal Highway Administration, right? Big things get done when we believe. And so, like the Congressman said, there's no way that we can allow these funding opportunities to be taken away. But what I'm going to talk about now, I'm going to introduce our panel, and I'm going to run it down, and then we'll, without any further remarks from me at this time, we'll hear from them on what those opportunities can do, not only to revolutionize all the buildings we have here, public buildings as well as private buildings, so they can be green and energy efficient, but perhaps most importantly, so that we can create career opportunities for young men and women here in the state of Rhode Island. So, we have Priscilla De La Cruz and Patrick Crowley with Climate Jobs Rhode Island and the Audubon Society and the AFL-CIO, respectively. Priscilla and Patrick are going to talk about an overview of the grants available. We have Erica Hammond and Mike Rolls from Climate Jobs Rhode Island, and they're going to talk about the Renew America Schools grant particularly. We have my good friend and brother from District Council 11, Finished Trades Institute, Southern New England, Director of Training, Michael Kamar. Another person who I count as a friend and who has made a huge impact on my life, and I wouldn't be here without his help, and that's Andrew Cortez from Building Features. Finally, we have Scott Kennett from AMS, and he's going to talk more about what it is to have third-party certified glazers for installation as standards in the industry when we do all this work around building envelopes. Thanks for being here. I'll say before we kick into the panel, we're a union, and it's not me, it's us, it's we. So I want to recognize my colleagues from District Council 11. Besides our Director of Training, Mike Kamarmi, we have John LaChapelle, our Director of Organizing. Mark Anderson, Representative Local 481. Rob Hill, one of our organizers. Joe Fazzino, Kansas 1333. Peter Lucio. Maxwell de Cava. Dr. Randall from our International Unit has been waiting Mr. Peter Lucio, who keeps the building running. Thank you, Peter. Alright, so without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Priscilla and Patrick. Thanks so much. If you'd like the microphone, let me.
I think we're good. All right, thank you very much, Justin, and thank you to everyone from IUPAT for hosting this event. Justin and his crew have been really at the forefront of this conversation since we got started. So it's nice to be in their union hall to have the next level of conversation. So Climate Jobs Rhode Island started in January of 2021 just for this purpose, to make sure that the environmental movement and the labor movement in the state of Rhode Island can be part of the conversation about what it's going to take to create a just transition to a green economy. And everything else that we're going to talk about today were just pipe dreams at that stage. We knew we had to move forward, but we didn't know what that was going to look like. Now that we're starting to get a clearer picture, it's time to move the conversation from big ideas and possibilities to getting things built in the state as soon as possible. So when you think about the New Deal that Justin and Mike referenced, so the New Deal wasn't just one piece of legislation. It was a series of bills that FDR got passed over a number of years that Congress enacted. And if you think about what President Biden's been able to do over the last 2 years, it is just as transformational. And one thing I want to talk about in particular is the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. I'm convinced that in 25, 40, 50 years, people are going to be talking about the IRA as a time when the United States of America really turned the corner when it comes to our fight against climate change. But without talking about the big picture part of it, I want to bring it right down to a very specific Rhode Island example. Let's talk about East Providence for a minute. And it's not only because our Secretary of State is from East Providence, or my president at NEA Rhode Island, State Senator Val Lawson, represents East Providence, but I think it's a typical Rhode Island community. It's got 10 schools. If we were to put solar power installed by union workers on all 10 school buildings in the city of East Providence, it would cost about $21 million. But with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, the federal government will give the community of East Providence $7.8 million directly. Not a grant, not a loan, not waiting for tax credits 30 years once the project is done, but as soon as the project starts. That's the big difference in this law. As soon as a project begins, whether it's a shovel in the ground, a fence around the proposed piece of property, the permit's pulled, the federal government will give you the money up front. That means that local communities like East Providence, if they wanted to put solar on their school buildings, don't have to wait for a bonding process to begin, don't have to wait for, financing the entire project on the taxpayer's expense. They can get the money at the beginning. Now, what would that mean for East Providence? That means that they would only have to borrow $13 million. But it also means that after 14 years, the project breaks even, and after that, it pays for itself and saves the taxpayers money and puts money into the pockets of East Providence schools. How does that happen? Because if they go from the current carbon-based fuel sources that they have to power their buildings to a solar array on every single school, the city of East Providence would save $1.9 million a year just in reduced electricity costs. So what that means is, after that break-even point, after 14 years, the meter on their electrical dial starts to roll backwards. And they will get money returned out of the project. So much so that their net savings in the first 20 years will be $12.8 million. That's $12.8 million more in the hands of East Providence taxpayers, or for the school department to expand services, or whatever the community thinks is best. Over 30 years, it's $37.9 million in savings. That is the nature, that's how transformative the Inflation Reduction Act is. Because not only is it going to give places like East Providence, or Foster, or Cranston, or any community in Rhode Island, the opportunity to do the right thing by reducing our carbon footprint. It's going to allow them to do that while employing Rhode Island-based union labor to do the job right. And it's going to save millions of dollars. That's the promise that we have in the package of legislation that's already been passed through Congress. Now the hard part is taking advantage of it. One of the things that Priscilla and I have the opportunity to do in our roles at Climate Jobs Rhode Island is talk with people around the country about how they're implementing the Inflation Reduction Act or the bipartisan infrastructure law. And the same frustration has bubbled up everywhere. The folks that are usually in charge of spending at the municipal level have never seen a moment like this before in our lives. I use this analogy, people laugh at me because they say, oh, that'll never happen. It's like if a guy like me, a Zamboni driver, won Powerball. I might be able to spend the first 10 million. After that, those are real big numbers. It's kind of like why there's so many stories about Powerball winners go bankrupt within 10 years. Because you're not used to dealing with that much money. I know my home community in Lincoln. If we all of a sudden got $100 million for projects, our town administrator, Phil Gould, is a great guy, very smart. It's going to know how to spend the first 10, maybe the first 20. We've never had that much money before. We don't know what to do. We've got to start getting creative. We've got to start getting the ideas. We've got to make sure that everyone who's in charge of municipal finance, whether it's the town council or town manager, or whether it's just the person that runs the spreadsheets at town hall, we've got to make sure that we have the information out there in their hands. Because whether it's solar on school buildings, building resilient waterways, building walking areas, making sure that our roads and bridges are secure, we have this opportunity and we can't squander it. So I'm going to stop there. I'm really excited to hear what everyone on the panel has to say, because I know what a lot of it is, and I know you're going to be very impressed. But I'm going to turn things over to my partner in crime, Priscilla De La Cruz, to talk a little bit more about an overview.
You know, I always hesitate to say partner in crime, but we are that. As co-chairs of Climate Jobs Rhode Island, hi everyone, it's great to be here today, and thank you for the invitation, Justin. As Justin mentioned, I wear a few different hats. My main job is with the Audubon Society of Rhode Island as their Senior Director of Government Affairs, working with Pat as co-chair of Climate Jobs Rhode Island. But also for a number of years, I have been the president of the Environment Council of Rhode Island, which is the umbrella organization for about 60 environmental nonprofits and individuals across the state, representing well over 56,000 Rhode Islanders who are concerned about the environment, climate, and its impact on its people and our communities. So a few years ago, when I met Pat and we were thinking about the concept about Climate Jobs Rhode Island, for me, it was a no-brainer. It was like, I'm all in. Even before we had really thought through what it would look like, because it was really needed. It was a huge void in our state, where we were so focused on what we didn't agree on, right? Coming from environment, labor, but when we focus on what we do agree on, we know we have a climate crisis, we can center justice, equity, and we can also ensure that we're strengthening our economy and not leaving anyone behind, and creating and sustaining jobs. So that's the opportunity that I get really excited about. And I don't know how many of you, maybe all of you, were watching the Super Bowl yesterday, but I think for Rhode Island, like, this is our Super Bowl moment. The stars have been aligning. Back in 2021, the Act on Climate was passed, thanks to the leadership of Chairwoman Senator Oyer, who had sponsored the legislation for a number of years. So what that means is that the state is required. It is a mandate that we must address the climate crisis. We do have to get to eventually net zero by 2050, but I think most importantly, and kudos to Senator for working really hard on this, is that we have interim targets. We have targets to hit by 2030, targets to hit by 2040, and along the way, labor and frontline communities, our frontline workers and environmental justice communities who are overburdened by pollution and tend to be Black, Brown, Indigenous, people of color, low-income communities that are most impacted by this transition have to be at the center of that process that the state will undergo. And I think for Climate Jobs Rhode Island, when we came together, it just made sense for us to really push the state to adopt the 2021 Act on Climate. And I think that has really opened up the door for then what came last year in terms of 100% renewable electricity by 2033, then up to 1,000 megawatts of additional offshore wind, again, tackling the climate crisis and creating and sustaining jobs while we're at it. And I think for me, it is a big opportunity that we have here, our Super Bowl moment, but we could really fumble, right? We could leave money at the table. And I think that's something that's keeping a lot of us at night up. So I think that for Climate Jobs Rhode Island, we're here to be a partner. We want to work with all of our networks within labor, environment, and really bring agency leaders, community members at the table to think through and envision. We're past the status quo. And I think when we look at the Act on Climate and we think about the second largest source of our carbon emissions being buildings, it makes sense for us to think about our public school buildings, right? Not only new construction, but existing, and again, tapping into that opportunity. And one of the things we haven't had, as Pat stressed, is the funding. And now that we do, how are we going to go for that funding, secure it, and then leverage it and not leave any money at the table? So I will stop there because I don't want to steal the thunder of the hardworking staff of Climate Jobs Rhode Island, Mike and Erica, and I'll pass it on to Mike.
Thanks, Priscilla. I'm going to be real quick before Erica takes it off and talks about a little bit more about the Renew America Schools program. Quick clarification with the IRA incentives for direct pay. That money comes to you as soon as the panels are turned on. If you had solar panels, it comes to you when the panels are turned on. There is a need for a little bit of bridge funding to get you through the project before you get that direct payment, which is why we need to tap into the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which will be coming to the state in a matter of weeks. And also there's a potential sort of ask among the General Assembly to help with financing that bridge funding as well, for school districts to be able to do those projects and then get those incentives back. So just real quick, as Priscilla said, we are tracking federal funding opportunities through both the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. We brought on a new energy fellow that's working with us for the full year from URI, Aislinn Wave. She's been helping a lot already with putting together a matrix that matches the immediate upcoming federal funding opportunities as well as the ones that are live, literally like you could apply for the grant today. And also matching that with the actual pot of money that's within either the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law or the IRA. We want to make sure that we are not leaving a dime on the table with these opportunities, and so Climate Jobs is going to be tracking these opportunities for the full year through this mission control matrix, as I've been calling it. so that Rhode Island is able to meet its Acts on Climate goals through a just transition. Now what happens in the next phase? Now that we've sort of just started doing this research, we wanted to talk directly with you if you're an eligible entity that can tackle this money. We are going to be having direct conversations through a series of outreach strategies, but if you want to get ahead of the game, please talk to me or Erica so that we can walk you through what we've learned on those federal funding opportunities through this matrix, through the actual applications. We've been talking to a few of you already, but please, if you want to get ahead of the game, we've been looking at this already, and we want to make sure that we are sort of taking advantage of this. We can also walk you through the eligible criteria. I mean, a couple of examples of what the federal government is looking at with a lot of these applications. One, with a lot of these applications, is strong labor standards. So if you're putting in those labor requirements for these applications, your grant is more competitive. Sometimes it is a requirement in those applications. We can walk you through what that would look like in your application. And also, a lot of these applications require a strong coalition of partners on the application or a consortium. The more partners you have on that application, the more competitive your grant is going to be. So we're willing to be a partner with you on these applications. Again, we can walk you through these opportunities. And again, me and Erica are here as a resource, and we can talk to you after the forum as well. But I'll pass it off to Erica to talk more about the Renew America Schools program specifically.
Thank you, Mike. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Hammond, and I'm the lead organizer with Climate Jobs Rhode Island. So at the end of 2021, our coalition launched our Green and Healthy Schools campaign. It's an initiative that's committed to the transition of all public K-12 schools throughout the state to carbon-free by 2035. The Renew America Schools grant, which we're really here to talk about today, gives school districts the opportunity to jumpstart that transition to investing in more efficient, energy-saving school buildings. So through President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, the Department of Energy launched a $500 million competitive grant program for energy improvements at public school facilities over the course of 5 years. So that consists of fiscal years 2022 through 2026. $80 million was allocated for 2022 in the first round of funding, with awards ranging from $500,000 to $15 million per eligible applicant. And although we cannot say this for sure, we can expect similar allocations in the years to come for the rest of those funds. So the application process consists of multiple phases, including a concept paper phase and a full application phase. Only applicants who have submitted a concept paper are eligible to submit the full application. So concept papers must outline a statement of need for each applicant. So this should include a community need, a facilities needs assessment, and a fiscal needs capacity. The deadline to submit concept papers for this first round of funding passed in January, and it's my understanding that both Newport and Davies Career and Tech submitted concept papers, which is really exciting for that round, and their deadline to submit their full applications will be at the end of April. In order to apply for this grant opportunity, the eligible entities must consist of a consortium of one local education agency and one or more school, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, or community partners that have the knowledge and capacity to partner and assist with these energy improvements. Consortium partners should include labor unions, joint labor management training programs, as well as multi-craft core curriculum pre-apprenticeship programs that improve access and inclusion within the construction trades. And I know that Brother Cortez will talk a little bit more about that as well. This program covers projects that are within two topic areas. So it's high impact energy efficiency and health improvements and innovative energy technology packages. So to break those out a little bit further, examples of high impact energy efficiency and health improvements include, but are not limited to, facility repairs, renovations, or installations to building envelopes, heating and air conditioning systems, ventilation systems, power systems, lighting systems, and more. And applicants are encouraged to bundle multiple of these improvements for greater savings and carbon reduction. Some examples of innovative energy technology packages include energy efficiency measures such as building envelope improvements, HVAC upgrades, lighting retrofits and sensors and controls, installation of renewable energy technologies such as rooftop solar or micro wind turbines, and then alternative fueled vehicle infrastructure, including the purchase or lease of alternative fueled vehicles to be used either by school districts or on school grounds. To support the goal of building a clean and equitable energy economy, these projects are expected to support meaningful community and labor engagement, investing in America's workforce, advancing diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, and prioritizing investments in disadvantaged communities. Our Green and Healthy Schools campaign and this Renew America's Schools grant meet at the intersection of helping districts save money, improving their learning environments, creating quality union jobs, and reducing emissions to ultimately free up funds that can be redirected to better serve both our students, teachers, and the entire school community. So with that, I will hand it over to, I believe it's Andrew Cortez next.
That's right.
All right, then. All right, now that it's my turn, for the next hour or so, we'll talk about apprenticeship. Here's the important part. When we have significant federal investments, we know how to translate that into real results for communities in Rhode Island. We have an advantage over many, many states. The infrastructure is in place here. We've done this before. Many of you may recall during the Recovery Act period, there were grants around environmental projects that were happening. Building Futures, in partnership with the building trades, pursued one of those grants. And with a few $1 million, we were able to train over 1,600 workers and place 800 on renewable energy and environmentally impactful projects. That was 10 years ago. We've only gotten better at doing this work. So when we're talking about schools, I love hearing it. However the projects are bundled together to maximize the amount of construction that can be done, the important part is put in place the community workforce agreements that are necessary to ensure there's opportunities for local residents to start their career through registered apprenticeship. We've done that before. I'm looking right at Ms. Hall. She knows how to do it extremely well. When I think about East Providence, I can't help but think about the success. Goals were set at 15%. Apprenticeship utilization, 20% was achieved, right? Because we have good, solid partners between labor, management, and community. I see Ms. Corsi over there in Dimeo. We're doing the exact same thing with community workforce agreements at Tidewater. The point is, when there is construction happening, and you require, as a condition to bid, registered apprenticeship, which is a national system that is union neutral. Anyone from around the country has access to the registered apprenticeship system. When you do that, you create a genuine career path. So many of our folks, we work with, for those who don't know Building Futures, we work with people who are experiencing poverty. And they're looking for connections to genuine family-sustaining careers. They get that through a comprehensive pre-apprenticeship program that closes the skill gaps any applicants may have and makes sure that they are prepared, ready, willing, and successful once they enter a registered apprenticeship program. It's reverse college. It's earn while you learn. I can't stress enough that if we're talking about real pathways, equitable pathways, we have to have earn while you learn opportunities for people to gain careers. It's how I got out of poverty as a broke 17-year-old in Oakland, California. I went through my apprenticeship program. I learned how to become a carpenter. Don't hold it against me. And when I moved to Rhode Island, I didn't have to prove that I knew my occupation. I had a piece of paper that said it, right from the federal government. This is a fully trained and proficient carpenter. Each one of our graduates goes down a similar path. It works. I could tell you it works. We have 380 graduates right now. 80% are BIPOC, 100% were low income on entry, 50%, more than 50% were justice involved, right? 42% formerly incarcerated, yet we have less than 3% recidivism. If we're talking about genuine pathways to the middle class in this country, registered apprenticeship is your pathway to do it. There is no higher quality registered apprenticeship programs in the nation than the ones that are sponsored by the members of the building trades in partnership with their contractors. They invest dollars created through collective bargaining into a fund to make it like the best college campus you could ever see. And it's true. It's how I gained my career, and I never looked back. It's how 380 of our graduates have gained their careers. 80% are still there 15 years later. After 1 year, about 95% are still there. These are powerful numbers. And again, 42% formerly incarcerated, less than 3% ever go back. We're talking about solid investments. And I say all of that to say that when construction happens, and we put good labor standards in place, and we have a community workforce agreement in place, communities win, membership it gets increased in the various locals, it gets diversified because of who we serve, and there's real opportunities for people to get ahead. Now add a layer on top of it, that we're starting to impact the most pressing problem of our time, being global warming and the climate changes that are out there. Well, that's just an added bonus, as far as I'm concerned. The best part about these registered apprenticeship programs, and I can't brag about them enough, well, I can, most people will tell me to stop at some point. You have an infrastructure in place that knows how to train people. So when a specific technology comes along, like a new glazing system, or new types of panels, or new stuff that I don't understand because I'm not an electrician like Mr. Walsh, right? All that good stuff. There's already a structure in place to ensure that the folks who are getting trained are right up to date, the cutting edge technology, contractors have exactly the trained workforce that they need, and people succeed. Businesses succeed, our schools succeed, our unions, they grow, our community members, they thrive, and best of all, our climate problems are at least partially addressed through intentional planning and placing people in the right opportunities at the right time. Now the real question to me is, how much can we bundle together? How much can we put under a community workforce agreement? And how can we exceed the targets, just like we did at East Providence, to make sure that community residents get good careers as a result of these incredible once-in-a-lifetime investments? If we were able to, one more example, and then I swear I'll pass it along. In 2016, we were able to get around $4 million to start expanding the apprenticeship model outside of construction. $4 million. Sounds like a lot. 1,800 people gained careers through that. 1,800 people. What can we do with $2.5 billion of infrastructure investment? That's the question that I think that we're going to solve together as a group and a community, and I promise I'll stop.
I just want to take a moment, because it's a source of pride for me, before we go to our next speaker, Michael Kamarmi, our Director of Training. I am a proud graduate of Building Futures, as well as Brother Alvin Rand. When Andrew talks about going from a place of poverty to a place of a middle-class living, I am a living example of such. So. To further tell you about the in-house apprenticeship training that we do here at the IUPAT District Council 11, Michael Kamarmi.
We have 4 different apprenticeship programs that we offer. The one I want to talk a little bit about is our glazing program. It's an 8,000-hour program. We do teach high efficiency window systems. We have third-party certifications that we're putting our apprentices through. We have a lot of boxes that we can check off ourselves, and we want to be partners with the community. We are a nonprofit organization. We do have labor management groups. Our program, the Finishing Trades Institute of Southern New England, is run by both labor and management, equal partnership. Training directors and the unions have opportunities to change people's lives. We have changed people's lives. My life has been changed, just like Justin's life has been changed. We have a great opportunity here. We do 8,000 hours in a glazing program here. That's 4 years. The federal government requires a 3-year program. We go one more year. There's a lot to learn in our glazing program to teach our apprentices. It's a great opportunity. We have avenues that we can get into these diverse communities. Help people. That's what we do. That's what the unions do. We help people. We want everybody to succeed. We want everybody to be in the middle class.
I guess it's my turn to round it out. Scott Kennett with Administrative Management Systems, which is a certification body in the glass industry. We do several product certifications as well as 2 installer certifications. So I'll start with AGMT, Architectural Glass and Metal Technician Certification Program. So that is for the glazers. A group of industry experts got together in 2018 and said, what should a glazer with 5 years of working experience be able to do? They started throwing stuff together, hitting it against the wall, seeing what was going to stick. And what we've come up with is an ANSI accredited certification program and about almost 1,300 certified glazers across North America, including Canada. It tests them on their ability to install a miniaturized version of a curtain wall, a storefront door, as well as demonstrate live ceiling, and also does a 125 multiple choice test, written test. So this is all-encompassing. It's a way to differentiate a career glazer from somebody who's maybe just coming into the trade or maybe doing other things as well as glazing work. But this is a way to set them apart and provide them a career path forward. One of the biggest things that we look at is can this individual follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing a product? That's the best way to reduce defects, reduce the risk of that building owner, that general contractor, by hiring people that have validated their knowledge, skills, and abilities that organizations like the IUPAT have given them, as well as their experience going over those 5 years in a career. Then on the contractor side of it, the North American Contractor Certification Program for glazing contractors, that's really looking at the company, the business as a whole. Do they have the policies and procedures in place to ensure that they're going to deliver a quality product that they're hired to do? And when we're talking in the millions of dollars that are out there, you want to ensure that you're hiring the best people possible, the best companies possible to minimize your risk. You don't want to waste money. You don't want to miss opportunities because they've got to come back and fix something, or you have to hire somebody else, or God forbid, situation. You know, we're looking. You know, really, do they have a quality management system? Do they have things in place to ensure that they're going to do things the right way, check the right boxes, and not only that, but it's going to make them a better company. You know, we get the benefit of being the bad guy that's going to come in and assess them every year, and they can use that as an opportunity to say, hey, we need to change the way we were doing things. We're gonna work to deliver a higher quality product. It's not just about getting the job done anymore. It's about doing it the right way, and that's where we fit in. And Justin, I think that kind of will wrap it up real quick. But
thank you, Scott. We're going to do a quick question and answer period, but I want to just note, look, you can see the whole thing here. There's millions, if not billions of dollars in opportunities for funding to renovate and build new buildings that meet standards, that are energy efficiency, that are going to address our climate crisis, perhaps the biggest existential crisis of our time. I have 2 young daughters, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I won't lie to you and say that it doesn't worry me to think about what climate change is doing to our world. We had like no snow this morning. That aside, we have these opportunities. We can help you achieve these opportunities. They all have labor standards attached to them. We want to partner with you in consortium. We want to apply for these grants with you. We want to help you make sure that whether it's HUD for the Housing Authority or the IRS and the Department of Energy to say that whether you're public or private entity, you can fix your building envelope. We want to partner with you. And then you look at the pre-apprenticeship work that gets done, the apprenticeship, and then a certified journey person worker. You create that career pipeline, that career pathway. The opportunity to go from, as long as you're willing to work hard and show up every day on time, go from poverty to making something of yourself. And that's the American dream, man. Very importantly, on what those standards that Scott's referencing, AGMT and NACC. We have pending legislation. Representative David Bennett was so kind to introduce in the House. Going to be heard in House Corporations this Wednesday. And I believe Senator Don Hoyer is going to introduce in the Senate. That legislation is going to set forward a standard threshold, standard specifications for public works over a certain size to say that you're going to use NACC contractors and have a certain amount of people on the crew with AGMT. Best bang for your buck, protects the taxpayer, makes sure the job's done right the first time, and offers that career security. So that's the big picture, that's the idea. We had a really great panel here with a lot of information. You have flyers on your chairs. There's a couple trifolds on Renew America Schools, 179D, as well as the dynamic tax glass credit. There's also a one-pager kicking around, and we can be happy to answer any questions, myself or any of the panelists. So, floor is open.
And Justin, one of the things I think just to re-emphasize, one of the reasons why we wanted to have this type of discussion with everyone is that we know through experience that trying to navigate the information from the federal government about what funding opportunities are available can be overwhelming at times. And just to re-emphasize, what Mike and Erica and Aslan have been able to do is already start to take that first step for you. So if you are a municipal leader or if you are a contractor and are trying to figure out how to navigate all of the different funding programs that either the infrastructure bill or the Inflation Reduction Act might be out there, you can feel free to contact our team at Climate Jobs Rhode Island. We can help you navigate through the various hoops because we know it's hard to track it on your own, especially when it's just one more thing to do on the list. The other thing that, just to re-emphasize, because Justin talked about it and so did Erica, we were able to partner with both Davies and with the school department in Newport. Because one of the big things about the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure law, as you probably noticed with the Biden administration, they really want to have a consortium, a coalition, a team applying for these grants. Because they want to make sure that there's three things that happen. One, we address the climate problem. Two, underrepresented communities